There is a lot of summer house news as usual, but I am actually going to start with New Jersey this week because Melania Giudice was arrested for assault. So I think we need to talk about that. And then we've got so much summer house because Kyle did this big, long sit down interview with People magazine, and West is finally speaking, but of course on his own podcast. And Jesse was on Watch What Happens Live. And just, there is a lot happening. We've also got Real Housewives of Atlanta news, the Valley news, Real Housewives of Miami as well, and so much more. And if you're looking for ad-free, head to patreon.com/Bravo and Botox. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Bravo Papers, a safe space for all us Bravo fans who love to analyze, deconstruct, and talk about our favorite Bravo shows ad nauseum. So join me, Bravo and Botox, and we'll catch up on all the Bravo news and read way too much into our favorite shows and Bravo celebrities.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Ever notice how life's best stories don't happen in your living room? They happen on the open road, out on the water, or parked under the stars. At Progressive, they get that you want to focus on the experience, not worry about the what-ifs. That's why they offer quality insurance designed for your ride, whether that's a boat, RV, or motorcycle. Adventure with confidence. Visit Progressive.com and see how easy it is to protect your favorite way to get away. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in D.C. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Bravo Papers. I almost forgot the name of my own podcast, with your host, Emily, also known as Bravo and Botox, here to bring you the tea, gossip, word on the street, news, all that good stuff. And we got some big news right out the gate because Melania Giudice was arrested for assault following a domestic violence incident. So this actually happened in May, but I guess we're just hearing about it now, or it just became public now. But basically it happened on May 14th. Police responded to a dispute at a residence around 6 p.m. She was charged with simple assault, which I guess just is sort of like a disorderly persons offense, according to New Jersey authorities. And it also means that she allegedly purposely or knowingly caused bodily harm. Okay, so the matter has been reportedly classified within the court system as a domestic violence case, but we don't know who the victim was or anything like that. And she had a scheduled court appearance on May 19th. So again, I'm shocked that we didn't hear about this sooner, unless we did and I missed it. But I really don't think I would miss something. This is a big thing. This isn't some small story. But yeah, anyway, so no plea was entered at that time. And that's really what we know in terms of official details. I mean, okay, so let's get to the gossip social media kind of aspect of it, because that's almost more fun in some cases. But basically on the day of her arrest, she posted a selfie video set to TikTok audio that said, "You are a diva, a young, beautiful diva." Okay. And according to a source, so again, I don't know who the source is, but it's an insider, there was an explosive fight in the house where things escalated. There was so much going on that her sister ended up pulling the trigger to call the cops on her. It was out of fear for multiple people's safety and for the fact that Melania was going at multiple people. Yikes. Okay, so that's pretty intense. Now, I noticed today, before I recorded this, today being Sunday, June, I already forgot, 14th, and I'm releasing this on Monday, but I did notice today on Sunday that Melania had posted quite a few Instagram stories, and normally I don't even look at her Instagram stories, but I was like, okay, obviously I'm going to look today because all this happened. And it was just story after story of inspirational post with like some sort of saying that she keeps like, reposting, not even like ones that she wrote herself. And they're kind of all on the same topic. Let me just like pull one of those up. Melania. Okay. Because there was like kind of one part of the quote. Okay. It was all about peace, like protecting your peace. And then there's one, not a single goal of mine is related to staying in my hometown. Interesting. Like, is this like she wants to get away from her? Like, I have always just been like, I know this family has like serious issues, and this is a messed up family, like we all know, which is part of the reason they've been so entertaining over the years. But is she wanting to get away from them? Like, I wonder what's going on. And then there was a lot of like posts about peace, like at peace, because whatever is meant for me will find me at God's appointed time, like finding peace in myself, like just like all this stuff. So faith over fear. Peace comes when you realize that everything that's out of your control should be out of your mind too. Sorry, it was like kind of one of those like video ones where I had to wait for the words to come up. So, she's doing kind of the standard thing that I think a lot of Bravo Lebs seem to do when they get into legal trouble, which is like, let me post a bunch of inspirational posts, sometimes accompanied by like really nice pictures and glam shots of myself, and pretend that everything is great and that I'm not bothered. And I mean, we've seen what's her name from Southern Hospitality was doing that when she got arrested. Grace Lilly, Wendy was doing that after her and Eddie got arrested. So, there's a lot of that happening. But usually the more stuff people are posting when it comes to like, not always, but usually the more like inspirational quotes people are posting, the more they're struggling or they're dealing with something serious or they're trying to deflect, right? So it's never a great sign. But I guess the biggest question, which I don't have an answer to, but I just wanted to acknowledge that I also have this question, is will this have been filmed for Real Housewives of New Jersey? Now, based on my knowledge of Real Housewives of New Jersey and when it's filming, yes, there would have been filming during this time. So it's possible that this is going to be on the next season. I would, at the very least, it'll be talked about at the reunion. So I think there's that. The other thing is like, if you asked me like which of the four daughters would be most likely to be arrested, I think everyone, if you surveyed like 100 people who knew the show, 100 out of 100 would say Melania. I mean, we've seen she's a firecracker. She's been a firecracker. One of the reasons she's always been so entertaining. And, I think for us, like we watched everything that happened with her dad and her mom going to jail and stuff. But I mean, yeah, that's going to mess you up. Like, think about how old she was when that happened. There's going to be, unresolved issues. There's going to be emotional issues. Probably she needs therapy if she hasn't already had it, or some sort of like anger management. Like, she probably has like misplaced anger and fear. Like, I'm not a psychologist, but I would just kind of assume like that's like a huge thing to happen to a child. And, although those girls were kind of forced to grow up really fast, they were children, right? Like they really were. And sometimes those things like that happen to you when you're young, they might not impact you right away. Sometimes it can take time or be almost delayed if you don't deal with them. So I wonder if that's what's going on with Melania, but I guess we will find out. Okay, let's go to some summer house news. And there is a lot. Okay, I'm not going to lie to you. There's a ton of summer house news content this week, more than last week. Last week was actually like a light summer house news week. But, Kyle did this People interview. Jesse was on Watch What Happens Live. The part 3 of the reunion happened and Andy's answering questions about it on his radio show. So there's just like, West is finally decided to speak, even though he had a 9-hour reunion to do it. So it's a lot. Okay, so let's start with Jesse on Watch What Happens Live. So he was asked about, where is it? Oh, yeah. So basically, they talk about how West, he gets on the reunion, he doesn't say a lot, and then all of a sudden he goes on his own podcast and he has tons to say. And Rachel Lindsay was on, and I thought, she made a great point with that. And she also explained like the racial aspect of all of this and how race plays into it and why it's such a big deal for Black women. And, this whole idea of like, Sierra felt like she was sort of like used or kind of like, we're not, like she said before, we're not for you to like experience and like, add to your playbook and then you move on and get serious with the white girl. Like, Rachel explained all that really well, I think, for audience people who just don't get that still for whatever reason. And I don't understand why people don't get that. But anyways, so they discussed that. And then, Jesse also says, Andy asked him, like, you were crying a lot throughout the reunion. And I don't really have like much to add to what Rachel Lindsay said. I think she explained it better than I ever could, of course. And, I suggest that everyone goes and watches her clip explaining it. It's on the Watch What Happens Live Instagram. But to get more to like tea and stuff that was discussed, I guess, from those two being on Watch What Happens Live, because they were on together. Jesse says he cried more when he got home from the reunion. And in regards to him and Wes being friends again, he basically said, we'll see. But that he doesn't condone the way that he's treated women. West, obviously. Here's my thinking is that he'll be friends with West again if they're on a TV show together. I think if they're not on a TV show, I think there's no chance for them to be friends again because I still just don't think that West even really likes Jesse that much. And I think I used to think that they didn't like each other. But now after watching this reunion and Jesse's interviews and all that stuff, now I think that Jesse, it's a one-sided relationship. I think Jesse likes West and West doesn't like Jesse, but I think Jesse doesn't realize that. Like he's just not picking up on it for whatever reason. Could be ego, could be Jesse like, what's there not to like, right? Like I sing, I'm tall, like, what else could you ask for? But I feel like Jesse, maybe isn't seeing that. And I think, listen, I think if West is fired, which I really hope he is from all these shows, like I don't want to see him on In the City. We don't need him on Summer House. And I think if he's fired, I don't think West would give Jesse the time. I don't even think it would be the like, oh, Jesse's on the show and he doesn't need West anymore. I don't think West cares to have a relationship with this person outside of like the workplace, which is how he sees Summer House. So Andy also on this episode, actually, sorry, more from Jesse. Jesse was not surprised by West's lack of reaction. He says like maybe if he had even like written out like a written statement or apology to read out, that would have been better, but he just doesn't think he handled it well. Yeah, like duh. After watching it though, I have to say, I actually think West talked maybe more than Amanda did by the end of it. Like she talked more at the start, I think. But then in the second and third part, she like after they had that lunch, I guess that was kind of halfway through the second part of the reunion, and Wes kind of told her to stop being snippy. She really just stopped talking and was doing a lot of, I hear you. I have a lot to think about. Like, and so then West ended up kind of talking more. So I don't know. I mean, they're both guilty. They both didn't talk enough. They both suck. They should both be fired. Like, I don't think I have anything groundbreaking to say in terms of opinions about that, but that is what I honestly think. And Jesse says one thing that he said that really caught my ear watching these clips was he says that it hurt bad because he asked them repeatedly if it was true. And days before West and Amanda made the statement, Jesse asked him about it, and Wes said something along the lines of, well, not something along the lines. He said, Amanda and I are not half as bad as you and Sierra act. Okay, so there it is. Like, there it is. It's West. To West, I think this has always been a competition with Jesse, who's going to be the most popular, who's going to be the star of the show, like the bigger star of the two of them, who's going to pull the most of like the main hot girls on the show, like all of that. all of that, right? Like from the jump. And I think that's West's way of like, how dare you be this flirty with Sierra kind of thing. And like, you're just as guilty as I am kind of thing. But meanwhile, he's hiding that he's actually like taken it to the next level. Right. And also, like, if Jesse did hook up with Sierra, like, yes, it would be, I guess, not a good thing to do to his friend West, but it wouldn't be the same level of betrayal as what West did. So there's that. Now, Andy also on this episode, so I thought that was crazy. So Andy also on this episode announces that it was Jennifer Lawrence who helped to provide the crucial information that helped them find the source of the leak. Okay, I don't understand people that are like cheering and like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like, I guess it's like fun in the sense that like she's like internet sleuthing like all the rest of us, which is funny. But I don't know, I'm just gonna say it. Like, Jennifer Lawrence is a snitch. Like, why are you like, I'm like, thank God we got those leaks. Because they really did edit the shit out of this reunion. There was so much that is left out that should not have been left out. And I'm going to even get to that on my next news point. That was very important, that poked holes in Wes and Amanda's, like timeline and their ability to just sort of like, I don't know, maintain any sort of plausible deniability. And I understand that you cannot keep everything in, but there are things that were kept in that were not that important and not needed, and things that were more important that were left on the cutting room floor that we did hear in the frickin' what's it called? In the leaks. So to me, the person who leaked is the person who should get the mazel of the day. The person who did the leak is the hero. Okay. And I don't care that Jennifer Lawrence is a celebrity. I really don't give a shit. And I don't even know if I believe this. Like, there's a part of me that just thinks that this is just like a PR thing. So I don't even know if I believe this. Okay. So recently, my sister-in-law told me about this new bra that she got that she's obsessed with from Honeylove. It's called the Honeylove Crossover Bra. So I decided to try it, and I am obsessed. Their crossover bra is life-changing, and what I love is that it has the comfort of a wireless bra, which it is, but with the support of a wire bra. I don't know how they did it, but they did. And for women like me with a larger bust, the support and comfort is very important. One of the reasons I think Honeylove has nailed it with their bras and shapewear is because they're an independent, female-founded brand. So they know what women need and want in a bra and shapewear. That's why I finally have a truly supportive wireless bra that's also comfortable. I also got a pair of their shapewear, the Superpower Thong, and it is honestly the best shapewear I have ever owned. It's actually comfortable and not suffocating, and it doesn't start to like roll down as soon as you start moving, which is always my biggest annoyance. And I honestly forgot I was wearing it. That's because they use targeted compression that enhances your curves and doesn't just squeeze them until you suffocate. So treat yourself to the most advanced bras and shapewear on the market. Use our exclusive link to save 20% off Honeylove at honeylove.com/bravopapers. That's honeylove.com/bravopapers. After you check out, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Experience the new standard in comfort and support with Honeylove. When I turned 40, I had sworn off the shapewear game. I was done with shapewear. It's too uncomfortable. It's too constricting, or it does nothing and it's rolling up and flipping down and all that kind of stuff. And at this age, I need to be comfortable. However, a friend of mine told me that she recently tried Honeylove and is totally converted. So she talked me into it, and I tried Honeylove shapewear. I got their Superpower short, and I gotta admit, I am back on the shapewear train. I love it. And this is like no other shapewear I've ever had before. It cinches in all the right places. It's not too constricting. I can actually breathe. It's comfortable. I like literally forget it's there. And now because I have it, like my wardrobe has opened up so much. There's so many dresses and outfits that I can wear confidently, and going to the store is like no problem. And I love that it is a female founded brand because unlike Bethany in season 10 of RHONJ, I support other women. So treat yourself to the most advanced bras and shapewear on the market. Use our exclusive link to save 20% on Honeylove at honeylove.com/bravopapers. That's honeylove.com/bravopapers. After you check out, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Experience the new standard in comfort and support with Honeylove. So let's get to that, because then Andy on his radio show is asked a question about why the whole thing about the video blackmail wasn't brought up, because that is so important, because that shows that they were hooking up prior to the statement and that there was a physical aspect prior to the statement. Because then at the reunion, they're trying to say that they didn't kiss. It's like, oh, send on the statement and then now let's make out, which is so goddamn stupid. Anyone who believes it is an idiot. I'm sorry. So that being not in there is crazy. Like that should have been in there 100%. And that is left out of there. And that makes Amanda and Wes look slightly less guilty. And I know we all have the internet and a lot of us are on social media and can listen to the leaks and can read tweets and threads and all this kind of stuff. But there is a portion of the audience that isn't doing all that due diligence, or who might just read like the Us Weekly headline, or, visit like the main kind of Bravo social media, and and I literally know those people. I work with them. Like I have friends at work who watch it and they literally just judge based off the episodes they watch. They don't go on and read tweets and threads and listen to podcasts like the one you're listening to now, because they're more just like, they're normal people. Like they're normal people. They're not like crazy, and a lot of us, don't get me wrong, a large population of the Bravo audience is more like me and you who are listening now. Like we're much more dedicated. We like to like get into the nitty gritty and go on the Reddit threads. Like that's still a huge population, but there is another huge population that isn't doing that. So that's why I'm like, it is important that those things are not cut out, right? And they know that. Like they know that, because that completely contradicts what they said about the statement. Because there must have been, if they were pushed to put out a statement because something nefarious was possibly filmed of them, then there must have been something nefarious to film in the first place, which means that you're lying. And I mean, we know that they're lying about everything. And the timeline, this is what really pisses me off, is that they came on here saying that what they wanted to clear up the most at this Summer House reunion for Amanda and Wes was the timeline. But then they came on the reunion, especially in this third part, basically like, well, the timeline isn't that important. So which is it? Are you here to clear up the timeline or not? And it's like, they're here. Amanda thinks that clearing up the timeline and basically that proves that she didn't cheat on Kyle. She seems to think that that is so important and that absolves her of responsibility, or it confirms that she is not a cheater. But that is not important to us. The timeline is not important in terms of proving whether or not you cheated on Kyle. I mean, it is important, but it's not the most important. The importance is that it proves that you were breadcrumbing people. It proves that you were lying to your friend Sierra. It proves that you were breadcrumbing and gaslighting the audience and people on social media who were like, well, why are you guys doing this? And you're like, oh, you guys read into everything. And we all know that Amanda, she does that. She did that with the separation too, right? Like she made that video where she was like, guys, I did move out, look. And then she was in Ryder, whatever her dog's name is, like Doghouse, when she actually had moved out. Like that right there should be a sign to Kyle. Like, this is what your wife, ex-wife, whatever, this is what she does. She's a big gaslighter. Like she really is. Anyways, the timeline does matter. Like it, and that's what's pissing me off. And like, whether she cheated on Kyle or not, even if she didn't and they technically didn't hook up until after, it's still, the timeline matters just in terms of like the progression of their relationship, right? And it matters in terms of like how far into the relationship they are and stuff. And that's why it was so difficult at the reunion. Sorry, this is turning into like a recap episode, but that's why it was so difficult at the reunion to even get. That's why Lindsay at the end was like, I feel like I've learned nothing. Yes, you have learned nothing. And the reason you've learned nothing is because these two will not be honest about when their relationship actually started. And since they won't be honest about when the relationship actually started, we as an audience and their group of friends who are on stage with them cannot get a real grasp about how serious this is, when it happened. Did Wes make inappropriate comments on Sierra's Instagram when he was already having sex with Amanda? Did Amanda pull Kyle in for a kiss at that brunch, even though she was already hooking up with Wes? Like, it doesn't allow us to get into any of the insidiousness of it, and it doesn't allow us to get into kind of like the depth of the interpersonal relationships and the betrayal that has happened here, especially when it comes to Sierra. And that was the other thing that drove me crazy, is there's all these reports that Sierra had hooked up with Wes as soon as December. So that's another thing. Wes gets off the hook about whether or not he was still hooking up with Sierra when he was also hooking up with Amanda, because these two are really sticking with this like February date. And not to mention, let's add one more thing to it, which is the Super Bowl date, which is February 3rd, which was mentioned, I think, by Bailey during the reunion, but it doesn't get talked about. But that completely contradicts their other statement. So yeah, the timeline matters. And it's not just because I want to be like, poor Kyle got cheated on. That's on the list, but it's at the bottom of the list. But it's like, because it also gives Amanda this sort of like out where she could be like, he told me he felt something, and then all these feelings just came flooding, and it really absolves her of responsibility, because then she can just act like everything, like she always does. And Sierra says this in a quote, everything happens to her instead of her making choices. And then she could say that we're all just reading into her song choices and her posts and stuff. No, this didn't all just happen to you. You're not just like a bag in the wind. You made deliberate choices. Everything was a deliberate choice. Everything was breadcrumbing. Everything was hiding in plain sight. Everything was like, you were so excited about this relationship and this hookup, and so excited about the deceptiveness and the secrecy and the sexiness. Like, you were so caught up in that you didn't even really care if your posts were leaving clues for everyone. Like, you enjoyed, that was part of it. That was part of like the appeal, right? And it's like, when you start dating someone and you're like, you like fall into like infatuation so deep that like you just want to scream it from the rooftops. Like, this was one of those situations where you could tell they, like, Amanda specifically wanted to scream it from the rooftops, and since she couldn't, she instead screamed it in all these little clue ways. Like, that's what was really going on. 100%. Okay, I've completely lost my place in my news notes here because of that rant. I should call this like news and rants instead of news and commentary. Okay, where was I? So Andy gets a call as well from a fan on his radio show episode, because he was kind of like, what's it called? Fielding questions about like everything from part 3. And somebody asked him, well, why didn't you ask about Amanda being on something? Because she was the one who seemed like in part 3, like she could barely keep her eyes open. And then Amanda says, or sorry, not Amanda, Kyle, oh my God, sorry. Andy says, well, actually, I will be asking her about that at the In the City reunion. And the In the City reunion has filmed. So yeah, so Andy, we're waiting. You better have asked that question. Andy also gets a call on his radio show from none other than Austin Kroll from Southern Charm, who confirms that Kyle made a visit to Charleston, and that him and Craig did interact, and that Kyle did film for Southern Charm. So there you go. I guess we have some of that to look forward to. Okay, let's go to Kyle's People magazine interview. So Kyle did this whole sit down with People magazine. And I got to say, I thought we got a lot more information from this than we did from what's it called? The reunion. But, I digress because I've already ranted about how much we didn't get from the reunion. So I'm not going to go on to that again. But yeah, if a few kind of like significant quotes or things that Kyle said, he said, I considered West a really good friend. This is not something I can fathom doing to anyone that close for me. Here's the thing. I don't think like West really sees any of these people as his friends. I also think he's the type who would fuck over his friends, but I also just think that he sees these as like newer coworkers. So he doesn't, and he thinks like this is the game. Like, I just don't think he cares. He says that he didn't see Kyle, the relationship coming until days before it became public. He says a conversation with Sierra Miller helped confirm his suspicions. And he says, when Amanda called to tell me the news, I was still in disbelief. So one thing that Kyle talks about during this is, hang on, let me just find it, about Sierra. He says that Sierra wanted to meet up with him in person. And he was like, because like, he's like, Sierra's a homebody. And she was like offering to come to my place. And I was like, can't we just FaceTime? And he was basically like, I knew something was wrong because like for Sierra to like make the trek over here to talk to me in person. But he said they got together, they compared notes, and it was just really not looking good. So yeah, like it's, they had their suspicions. And, I think for a lot of us, like as outsiders kind of looking at all the clues and evidence, like to me, and I felt this way from the very first rumor, like to me, it was like, I can't believe that people don't believe it. Like the amount of people that were like in denial about it up until the actual statement, even when we had like Lindsay, like basically confirming it, like people were still like, nope, nope, nope. Like, I guess denial is, a hell of a drug because like people just could not fathom this. I don't know. I still don't get it, but whatever. I can understand Kyle being in deep denial because, it affects him. Like this is his actual life. Like it's more the fans that I'm like, you don't really like know these people. And if these people are pretty much telling us that this happened, like why would they lie about that? Like I don't know. So yeah, I think that's pretty messed up. I'm just thinking what else was kind of the best key points here that I wanted to tell you guys. Okay, so he says that when he was coming into last season and the summer, he was basically mentally working on being at peace with being misunderstood. So he talks a lot about like how he's so regretful of his actions and his explosions and all that kind of stuff. But he also says that he had kind of like just given into the fact that like this season was going to be more like Amanda would be the victim. He doesn't say it in those words, but Amanda would be the victim. It would be more seen from her side of things and his side would just not be shown as much. He says he's not saying that as an excuse for any of his actions or swearing at her, yelling or anything like that. But he was trying to be at peace with that. I mean, I don't think he tried hard enough because like Kyle, no one is watching last season and being like, Kyle was at peace. But also I don't think anyone is expecting somebody on the brink of divorce to be at peace. Again, it doesn't excuse some of his actions and things that he said, of course, but I think people, especially now that we see the reality of what was happening and the fact that, in my opinion, she was cheating on him right under his nose with his friend, I think people are a little more understanding of just him being upset. Maybe not the way he dealt with his upsetness. As they say, his feelings are valid. Doesn't mean you get to yell F you at Amanda, but I think we understand why he was upset, right? He says West hooking up with Amanda is like, he says like they're like a family. That's how they honestly feel as a cast. And you can feel that with this cast. It's not like Vanderpump Rules where you could tell these people were at the point of like they legit just like hated each other and only hung out because of the show. Like you could feel that this was like there was like a love and like a camaraderie on this cast that you just really don't get on a lot of these shows. So he says that, West hooking up with Amanda is like banging your sister. You know, he says he says Wes realized he was going to have this knight in shining armor moment ahead of time, that it was all planned. And he said 2 summers ago, Wes made a comment to Jesse saying that dibs on Amanda, as in like, you know, if she's ever single, or, you know, I like future dibs if anything ever happens. So he says like he thinks that he's kind of like had his eye on her like from the jump, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. But do I believe it? And do I believe West would say dibs on Amanda? 100%. Because I kind of felt like he did that with Sierra a little bit. Like he kind of like put his foot down to Jesse that like he was going to be the one pursuing Sierra. And I think none of us really like cared to like fight that battle or anything on behalf of Jesse, because it was clear that Sierra wasn't interested in Jesse as more than a friend. But he like you could tell like from the jump, West was like, I am in competition with Jesse. Like it's just all signs point there. And I think Jesse needs to realize like this man is like, you might think this is your friend, but he's not your friend. I think he needs to have the same realization that Sierra is having. She's always really truly thought Amanda was her friend and really loved her, and is realizing that Amanda doesn't feel the same way about you. Sorry, but it's true. So Kyle doesn't know if West, you know, he says Wes had a plan for all this, like looking like the hero, like being Amanda's like knight in shining armor and to get in her pants and all that. But he doesn't know if Wes really expected it to turn into a relationship. I think probably he didn't, but I also think that he kind of knows he has to now. So I don't know. He says that he thought it was weird as well that Amanda was expediting their divorce, especially coming from someone who doesn't take a lot of initiative, which I loved him throwing that shade at Amanda for her laziness. He says that this was like a week before the announcement, and he was like, huh, that's weird. But yeah, obviously it ends up making sense once he sees the announcements. He says that the current plan for their divorce is still a quote unquote walk away divorce, meaning they didn't commingle anything and they're just going to kind of like walk away with what they both have. That might be his plan, but I don't know is that Amanda's plan? I don't know. On his one-on-one with West. Okay, so Kyle says that he felt like he still had to steer the conversation in the one-on-one. So I guess we're going to be seeing that next week on the bonus episode. And he also said that he felt like West was still lying. So he walked away frustrated. So yeah, I guess that's what we're going to see. And that's exactly what I would expect. Like West is so meek, like he's never gonna just like own things and like just talk. You know, like it's so annoying. And like West is like him and Amanda, like if they're not in control of it, and it's not their platform, like Rachel Lindsay said, they don't talk. They just try to like sit there and like just, okay, sorry. Like, and then can this just be over, please? Right? Like that's their strategy. It's mostly West's strategy, but he's like taught it to Amanda now. Okay, so what else did Kyle talk about? He said he walked into that brunch, so we all know like that brunch where they were all like together or whatever. And he said he looks and he sees this big booth, and lo and behold, who's sitting next to each other in the corner of the booth? Amanda and Wes. He says then Amanda pops up to kiss him as in Kyle. And he says, like, looking back, he doesn't know if it was to throw him off the scent, or he also mentions that she was unusually drunk. So like he kind of, like implying she's more drunk than she would usually be. And I think that's kind of Kyle's way of being like, Amanda is really like sort of turning into West, or trying to like, or doing things that she normally wouldn't do to impress him and to like kind of like be like him and be partying and stuff like that. And I think Kyle looks at that from the perspective of like West is manipulating Amanda. And so, she has to do all the stuff that he likes to do. And like, I think that's how Kyle sees it. But Kyle's a man. So I don't think Kyle sees it clearly as a lot of us women do, because we all know women who do this. Okay. And a lot of us did it when we were younger and then we grew out of it, etc. I don't think Amanda's ever going to grow out of it. I don't know. It's like you look at Yolanda Foster, like she's still doing it. Like she like became like, a freaking like, what's it called? Montana Western, like cowgirl for her new man. Like she changes her persona based on who she's dating. But that is so Amanda. Like Amanda would 100%, she's going to change her style. She's going to change the way she posts on Instagram. She's going to change how much she parties and what bars she goes. Like she's going to conform to what she thinks West is looking for. That's, and I think she did that with Kyle, because at the beginning she was all like, hook up, come to the summer house party. And then once they were kind of more serious, she was all of a sudden like, okay, I'm just going to lie in bed with Paige and whatever. Like once they were married, and she just locked it down. And, there's only like, she's still doing that thing that a lot of us do when we're young, which is like try to be like the cool girl, like the girl that we think the guy wants. And as somebody, as many women who've done that will tell you, it just gets exhausting and you can only keep it up for so long before you just have to be who you are. And then you are who you are. And a lot of times, I guess if you're lucky, it might still work if you still love each other and they still like who you are without doing all that other stuff, or it doesn't work. And that's, that happens often because the person's like, I thought you were this, and that, but really you're not. And that's kind of what we saw happen with Kyle. And I know it's what's going to happen with West. It just give them time. And it might take a while. It might take 8 months. It might take a year. It might take 5 years, but it will happen. Trust me. Okay. Summer is here finally, and it always makes me rethink my wardrobe, especially when it comes to pants. I have this pair of white jeans that I got years ago, but I find myself never reaching for them because they're just so stiff and uncomfortable, especially when I'm sitting and doing work. That's why I'm so happy I discovered Quince. They have by far the most comfortable denim I've ever tried. I bought their Bella Stretch straight jeans in white, perfect for summer. And honestly, I would live in them if I could. And most importantly, they are not see-through, which is such a hard find with white denim. But Quince's clothes are high quality and for a reasonable price. Quince works directly with ethical factories and cuts out the middlemen, so you're paying for and getting quality, not a brand markup. Elevate your summer wardrobe. Go to quince.com/Bravo Papers for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/Bravo Papers for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/Bravo Papers. Every spring, summer, I try to add a couple of new items to enhance my backyard. One thing I've always wanted is Adirondack chairs. I have some cheap plastic ones, but they already have cracks. They don't look great and they take up so much room in the garage. That's why I went on Wayfair and I got a weather-resistant folding Adirondack chair and I love it. It comes in a bunch of colors. I got the dark green and it folds up. So putting it in the garage over the winter is no issue. And honestly, if you've never tried Wayfair, I highly recommend. So much selection. It was easy to find the exact chair I wanted and all these big items ship for free. Like I bought 3 of the folding Adirondack chairs and it all shipped free. And I knew they were high quality beforehand because there were already thousands of reviews. Wayfair has 20 million 5-star reviews and many include pictures, so you can really see what the item looks like and imagine it in your home or your space. Patio season is here, and these deals won't last. Head to wayfair.com right now to get your outdoor space ready for way less. That's WAYFAIR.com.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
One thing that's always been a problem for me when it comes to skincare is the routine. I just don't have time in the morning or the motivation at night after a long day to do like some long 10-step routine that's so complicated and time consuming. And often it doesn't even make that big of a difference. That's why I love OneSkin. Their products aren't about hype or fancy packaging. They're backed by science and they actually work. Since I started using their OS1 face moisturizer, I've noticed big changes in my skin's texture, and I don't do a lot. I wash my face, then I apply the OS1 moisturizer and eye cream, and that's it. But it's made a huge difference. My skin feels smoother, it looks brighter, and I found that it doesn't get as oily by the end of my workday. Born from over a decade of longevity research, OneSkin's OS1 peptide is proven to target the visible signs of aging, helping you unlock your healthiest skin now and as you age. For a limited time, try OneSkin with 15% off using code BRAVOPAPERS at oneskin.co/BravoPapers. That's 15% off oneskin.co with code BRAVOPAPERS. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. He says that on New Year's Eve, so the whole New Year's Eve thing, he clears that up. He says she was supposed to be there. They had committed to this DJ event. It was like, kind of like a public appearance. And he had texted her multiple times in the days leading up and the day of to confirm, you're coming to the New Year's Eve event, right? You're coming. She kept saying, yes, I'm coming. Then she literally cancels and bails the day of. He said they were also having a beef over a brand thing that he had helped her with that only she was gaining from monetarily. So that probably didn't help. And I guess that's what she means when she says that was the straw that broke the camel's back. I mean, I think she was already permanently done. Like when we see her on In the City taking a year lease with no furnishings. Like Amanda's just too much of a wuss to just say, I don't want to be with you anymore. And I know that's a hard thing, but to just say, I'm moving out. I think we should get divorced. So that's why she's doing it in this kind of slow burn way of okay, it's just temporary. And then we're going to date. And that she's just pretending to sort of maybe ease the blow and the heartbreak on Kyle because it's more her that wants out than him. And I'm not saying he's 100% happy in the relationship either. I'm just saying she seems more ready to just throw the towel in. But she's too scared to just throw it in. So she's just doing these little half kind of gestures, right? And then purposely getting a place that's a year. That was on purpose. It's all on purpose. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. Kyle also says that the outpouring of support and his one-on-one with Carl discussing Loverboy's financial issues has really helped to save Loverboy. He says it's not like they're 100% saved or anything, but they're in a much better place. And, he thinks that he can sort of I guess I don't know, kind of delegate a bit more now that they have a bit more funds coming in so that he doesn't have to kind of take on everything. Kyle also says that in terms of them kind of breaking up and parting ways, that he drove a car filled with items to Amanda's new apartment. But 6 months after their split, she still has belongings in his home. He says, I'm trying to be as patient as can be, but I think my patience has run out. I think she has a boyfriend that can come over and probably help pack up her car. He adds, I will not be there. Okay, Kyle's getting a little angry. I think the more Amanda is ingrained in this relationship with West and the more real it becomes to Kyle, because Kyle even says in this interview that it doesn't seem real to him unless he sees them together. I think the more mad he's going to become. And I think once they're actually divorced and he knows he's safe financially and stuff, and that he doesn't have to pay alimony, etc., I think we'll get a lot more of his unedited opinions. I really do. So I look forward to that. Speaking of unedited opinions, Sierra had something to say during the airing of the part 3 of the reunion. She said, just a medical note. Beta blockers don't remove emotion. They work by blocking adrenaline from binding to beta receptors in your heart, blood vessels, and muscles. The receptors responsible for the physical symptoms of anxiety, like increased heart rate, blood pressure, and trembling. The emotional experience remains, but the physical stress response can't fully activate. It's like putting your fight or flight symptoms on Do Not Disturb. Enough with the beta blocker bullshit. Yeah. That woman is not on a beta blocker, okay? I'm not an expert on it. I didn't even know what they were until I watched this reunion and everyone was talking about it. And then I looked it up and I was like, okay. But it's from what I've read, it doesn't numb you. It's not like a tranquilizer. Like, it's like exactly like Sierra said, you're still going to have emotions. Like, it's ridiculous. What she did do, in my opinion, is she probably took something like a Xanax. Like, that's, I don't know why no one wants to say that, but whatever. And then Sierra also says, and I am not falling for the whole like drugged is why they have no emotions and they don't care. And if they didn't, they'd be much more. No, they're just two assholes who don't give a shit and who are mad that everyone is mad at them. They're annoyed that everyone's not shipping them, and they're annoyed that everyone is so hurt by this, and they wish everyone just is, they're just like, it's not a big deal. Can you guys just get over it? Like, that's their attitude. And West is just better at faking it than Amanda is. So she had to be more tranquilized. Because if we just left Amanda not tranquilized, she would have been a snippy bitch the whole time, like she was in the first part, until she went and took her little break and popped more pills. That's what happened. I'm sorry. Okay. In my opinion. Sierra says also anxiety and depression aren't the only things in the DSM-5. Personalities disorders exist there as well. Yep. So basically she's saying like these two are sociopaths or something or whatever, right? Just, throw in a little bit of shade. Now, after this reunion where West and Amanda said next to nothing, West, of course, went on his podcast and he had all of a sudden lots to say because he's in control of it. And his co-host is going to feed him softball questions and, reaffirm his delusions, etc. So, okay, here's a little summary of just things that are like worth even noting. So he says he wished Amanda didn't get up in regards to her leaving during the reunion. He said she should have stayed on the set, but he got up only because he was being yelled at and he didn't want Kyle to go. Oh, jealous. Okay. And then he didn't like how he was being. Here's the thing. It's not because he's like jealous. It's because he doesn't want the audience to have another reason to be like, oh, look at Kyle's like the honorable guy who actually like gives a shit. And he's not, because he knew that was coming, which it did. So that was the reason that not because he cares so much about Amanda. Notice how he doesn't say anything about how much he wanted to make sure she was okay. So he also says that he didn't like how he was accused of only having influencer friends. He says his friends are from before the show started and he has day one homies, son. Shut up. He's so annoying. He's such a tryhard, like, ugh. And that's what you're upset about? I didn't even like get that impression that anyone was saying that he only has influencer friends. Like, it just shows how much hears all the wrong things and the messed up way he interprets things. Like, that's what you took away from it? Not about how you devastated and hurt your friend group and screwed them all over and possibly made them lose all their jobs if Summer House can't keep going. Like, it's like this man, he needs help. And I'm not saying that in a sympathetic way. He says dating Sierra would have been more clout chasing move than Amanda. And if he was calculated, he wouldn't be in this mess. No, you're calculated because you're in this mess and you're just a calculated person that got caught. Calculated people get caught all the time. Usually they get away with it for a while and then eventually they get caught. The problem is that you are two things: calculated, but you also love attention. And those two things can sometimes, be at odds with one another, because he's calculated and manipulative trying to get away with something, but he also loves attention. So sometimes he's going to, like Amanda, leave breadcrumbs and clues. And he also underestimates the intelligence of the audience. And no, dating Sierra would not have been more of a clout chasing move. People would not have cared as much. Like, yes, people would have been shipping and like, oh my God, because they already kind of were before we found out about all this, but it would not have made these types of waves. And that's what he likes. Okay. He said it hurt to hear what Dara said, and he's thought about it probably every day since the reunion. Well, you can think about it till the cows come home. Are you actually going to change or do something about it? Because otherwise, it's irrelevant. Really. He said everything she said was accurate, other than saying he talks about getting girls. And we're supposed to believe you? Why? Of course you talk about getting girls. You literally talked to Jesse about calling dibs on a married woman the first minute that you met her. So you clearly talk about getting girls. We watch it on the show. He says the reason he gets in trouble is because he keeps girls a secret and doesn't talk about it. No, it's because you keep them a secret from each other and you lie to them. It's not about the secrets, it's about the lies. Well, it's about both, but don't conveniently leave out the lies. He says he doesn't know if KJ and Dara broke up, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I don't care about your opinion on that. He says he's not bothered about the cast monetizing off everything because that's the point of the show. He's never going to cry about someone else making money. And then the other guy, I don't know, whatever other guy was on the podcast, defends Amanda and West and says, yeah, well, Carl and Lindsay had a massive breakup and no one did commercials for it. Actually, do your research, other guy. You clearly don't know what you're talking about because there was a Cheez-Its goldfish war and everyone made money off of it, including Amanda. So shut up. Okay, what else we got? Oh, yeah. One last thing from West, and then I'll stop torturing you with quotes from him. But he said, if the Spurs win Saturday and they go back to MSG and they play game 6, it will be Tuesday night, the same night they air this fucking goddamn bonus episode. Give me fucking Knicks in 6 at the same time as this shit on TV. I will be the happiest person in the motherfucking world. Well, congratulations, because it did not happen. I'm not even a sports person. I don't care about sports, but do you know how happy I was that they won just because it goes against what West wants? And also, sir, it is 2026. We have multiple screens. We have streaming. Most people watch later on streaming anyways. People can watch the game and then later that night they can watch In the City or whatever, or Summer House bonus. Like, you're not escaping this. And stop pretending that you want to escape this. You love this. Like, he's saying this out loud, acting like he wants this to be all over. He loves this shit. He was probably more happy than anyone that the Knicks won last night so that he could get all the attention on Tuesday. I don't believe anything this man says. Now, in addition to all this, there has been a West sighting in New York City, which, like, what else is new? But here's the blind to Dumois. Wes Wilson spotted at 82 Stanton, walked in with a girl who isn't Amanda and threw a hissy fit after being spotted. Anon, please. Why would you throw a hissy fit? This man is delusional. If you don't want to be seen, don't go out. Like, the majority of, or like a huge population of people who watch Summer House are like women in their 20s and 30s who live in New York City. Okay. And one of the reasons I know that is because, like, when I look at the breakdown of this podcast, most of my listeners are women from the US and the number one city is New York City. So you, sir, are going to be recognized. Like, what is happening? I don't understand this. And then there's pictures of him walking down the street with this girl. I mean, like, it's not like they're touching each other or anything. I don't know. It could just be a friend, but cue Amanda spiraling in some apartment somewhere in Manhattan. What else we got? And then there was these paparazzi pictures of Kyle and Amanda after the In the City reunion filmed, walking out laughing, and people were not happy about this. Kyle was getting all sorts of blowback. So he again made a Instagram video. I love how Kyle has to make an Instagram video like every week to like lecture us about wearing our tinfoil hats or whatever, but he made another one, and basically he said, we were walking out from this intense In the City reunion. Amanda made a joke. What if a photographer takes a picture of us right now? That would be crazy, because they were walking next to each other. And then they looked up and there was a photographer there. So that made them laugh really hard. And then, of course, the photographer took that picture. He said, there's nothing, like, don't read into it, whatever, which... yeah, I mean, I understand why people are annoyed. I think people just want him to like fully be like, Amanda sucks. Here's all the reasons she, like, I think they want that, but I don't think we're going to get any of that until they're officially divorced. I think he's protecting his assets. I think he's protecting his peace. I think he's trying to, like, he doesn't know if she gets fired, which she probably or highly likely will, then maybe he might have to pay alimony. Like, I don't know. So I think he's just trying to keep things copacetic, and that's it. Okay. But, you know, he's moving on with his life because he was seen with a mystery girl leaving the Uber One party in New York City. And Jesse was there as well and was with a girl who he was calling his girlfriend. This was all allegedly according to Dumois, by the way. So, yeah, interesting. All right, I think that's it for Summer House. Let's get into some Real Housewives of Atlanta because Drew and Ralph have finalized their divorce. Thank God. Drew was ordered to pay Ralph child support. So a bit of a loss for Drew there. But I guess if he has sole custody, then she should pay it. But I don't know what the exact situation is. But she has been ordered to pay monthly child support. The court determined Drew's income at about $38,000 per month compared to Ralph's $27,000. Okay, so despite Drew claiming Ralph made over $70,000, which I was always like, what? How is Drew making over $70,000? Like, was that just Drew trying to get money out of Ralph, or like? I just cannot wrap my head around how that could be possible. But anyways, she's required to pay $2,200 each month for their two children. Okay, they jointly own a $1.9 million Atlanta home, which Ralph received ownership after agreeing to pay Drew approximately $145,000 for her share. How could her share only be that? I guess maybe if he paid for most of it, I'm assuming. Drew will keep the Cadillac Escalade, Ralph will keep the Porsche and another Cadillac, and Drew will keep the family dog, and neither will receive spousal support. Additionally, Drew's last name will revert to Jordan. A previous order for Drew to leave the home was reversed, but she is going to vacate after receiving her equity share. Okay. I mean, I think there's worse outcomes that could have been possible, and this is pretty good. And I think, $2,200 a month in child support for Drew, who makes a lot of money, like it's not really that bad, which makes sense because they make, I guess, comparable incomes after going through all their finances and stuff, even though Drew is trying to say he made $70,000, which I never believed that, so I don't think a judge was believing it either. So Ralph did take to Instagram to kind of make a, thank you, it's all settled sort of post. And he said, "This has been one of the most challenging chapters of my life, but I'm grateful for the people God placed around me to help me walk through it with faith, strength, and grace. I'm forever grateful to my attorney. Thank you for believing in me, blah, blah, blah." And then Dennis McKinley. So is that Portia's ex? Like, I think so. "Thank you for connecting me with the attorney." Yeah, okay. "She did everything you said she would, just like she helped you get joint physical custody." Okay. "To everyone who prayed, encouraged, and supported my family, especially our children, thank you. Your grace and kindness mean more than you ever know. No one wins when the family feuds. My focus now is peace, healing, and continuing to show up for my children with love, strength, and consistency. Nothing matters more than being the father they need me to be." And then Drew was on Watch What Happens Live, and she basically said, in regards to this, that when Andy asked her, that her and Ralph are going in a positive direction. She's not going to bash him. And that, they're in a good spot. They want to keep it going and just positive place for the kids. So that's good. I think that's a step in the right direction. I'm glad this is over. And again, I really think that with what we saw from Ralph, especially on camera, like this could have been way worse. So hopefully, I think like divorce, when you're not like in one of those rare situations where you and your ex are like really cool about everything, and those are kind of the exception, not the norm. I think that, you have to just kind of take it like one day at a time. And if things are good now, just try to keep that going. I'm sure there's going to be ups and downs in the future, but yeah, I guess we'll see. Now, also when Drew was on Watch What Happens Live, she was asked about Pinky. So it was like the funniest thing last episode because Pinky has this audition for this show she's producing. Maybe, I don't know. It was hard for me to believe that she was doing this when she said the budget was like $40,000. I was like, $40,000 for a pilot, like for like producing it just seems really low. Like I was kind of like, is she doing this for a storyline on Real Housewives of Atlanta? which would be weird because she doesn't really need a storyline. She already has a pretty good storyline. Like the bankruptcy, and I saw a preview for next week, or for tonight's, I should say, because it's Sunday. She's going to be having like therapy with her husband and all this stuff. So I don't know. Anyways, so basically Pinky said that, you know, she had gone through all the proper channels and contacted Drew's manager and went through all that stuff. So she didn't understand why Drew would show up to the audition and not audition. I also felt that way. I love Drew. Like, I'm a Drew fan and I think she's hilarious. And I thought it was like hysterical last week when she shows up to the audition and they're like, okay, are you auditioning? And she's like, no, why would I be auditioning? And they're like, what? Like, why? Like, only Drew could make it out like everyone is crazy for thinking I'm here to audition. Like, why are you at the audition if you're not auditioning? But, you know, Drew kind of says like, oh, well, she didn't go through, you have to contact my manager, you have to do all this, etc. And I was kind of like, all right, like Drew, you know, she has like a legit acting resume. Like, she's not like nobody. But it was weird that she showed up. So I was kind of like, well, maybe she thought she was going to be like, you know, one of the people who was what is it called? Like on the panel of people watching the auditioners. Like, maybe she thought she was going to have like helping Pinky choose the actors. And then when she realized she wasn't, she was a little bit butthurt. So then she was like, I'm not auditioning. Okay, so that's one possibility that I was kind of thinking. The other thing is, though, Drew says, in response to Andy asking about this, she says, okay, well, Pinky's lying. She did not go through all the proper channels. She did not send a character sketch. She did not send the lines. And that, you know, Drew on last week was like, I'm not familiar with this character, right? And she says that, you know, if Pinky's saying that, she needs receipts and she doesn't have them. And then she's like, but, you know, I know Pinky's new stepping into this, like, as in like producing a show. I think she's trying to like throw some shade at her. So, you know, like, you know, I guess she just didn't know like the proper etiquette and whatever. And, you know, Andy was laughing and so was I. But my other thought was that maybe Drew, when she got there, this is a real possibility. Maybe when Drew got there, she saw that Shamia was auditioning and she was like, I'm not giving you this storyline of like me versus Shamia and like the dueling auditions and who's going to get it. And then maybe Drew was like, that's what they're trying to do here. And like, I'm not an idiot. Or maybe I wasn't told ahead of time that Shamia was also auditioning. And like, I'm a real actress. I have and as much as like Shamia's trying to pretend that like, I don't know, she's had some big acting career, like the way she talks about it is like, my husband wants me to quit acting. And I'm like, were you acting? Like, and then I'm like, so maybe Drew saw that. Now, maybe that's me giving like a lot of credit to Drew, but I think that it's possible. Like, I don't know. I'm trying not to be biased with my love of Drew, but that's, but listen, I'm actually so interested in this story. I love storylines like this. Like, this is like reminding me of the donkey booty versus stallion booty thing. Like, I just love like petty stuff like this. So I love this storyline. Now, Pinky is not the only one that Drew is having some issues with, because somehow Drew ended up being like the star of this season, even though I wasn't expecting her to be like the center of a lot of the drama, but she is. Complimentary, obviously. I thought it was just going to be like whatever Drew has with K. Michelle. I thought that was just going to be like one of the kind of, you know, storylines on the season. But there's also seems to be some issues happening with Kelly. So on social media, Kelly posts a before surgery photo of Drew. Okay, so basically on Sunday nights, Watch What Happens Live, Drew appeared as a guest, as I said. And when Andy asks Drew, like, do you regret calling Kelly Ms. Proportions during the current season of Real Housewives of Atlanta, sorry. Drew didn't back down. She doubles down on the joke. And then she said Kelly looks like a stuffed Cornish hen. Oh, God. which left Andy and Liz stunned and laughing, which, my God, how could you not be? Now, Kelly is firing back on social media, so she posts some before and after photos from Drew's 2022 body transformation, putting Drew's pre-surgery photos on display. And then Kelly wrote in her tweet, calling me Ms. Proportion after that miracle worker showed that before and the after from surgery number 1 is wild. Your before was after the mommy makeover. Drew, you'll always be a SpongeBob box-shaped Buick even after you got the P special. Okay. And then Drew responded to this and she tagged Kelly in a post showing off her figure and saying she's more than happy with how she looks today. Okay. I mean, listen, Kelly posting these pictures was unkind, obviously. But that being said, I mean, Drew did start it. Like I love Drew, but she did start it by calling her Ms. Proportions. So it's kind of like, all right, if you're going to say that, then, I mean, I guess there's a lot of people saying like they think like posting the pictures is like a step too far. But I'm like, if we are on the highway or the road of like talking about people's looks, we've already gone an exit too far. You know what I mean? So now that we're on the exit, it's like anything goes. So once you're already doing it, it's kind of like, then it's like, well, it's too far to post a picture. It's okay to say something about someone's looks, but not to post a before and after. Like, it's like, okay, it's like, aren't we already just kind of in like, we're already like driving on this road? Like I said, it's like, I don't know. I can't get like that mad at the retaliation for it, I guess, even though I'm not a Kelly fan in general. So yeah, Drew did retaliate again and posted like a before and after of Kelly's face work, I guess. Here's the thing. They're both just not winning in this because it's like we don't really need to be talking about people's looks, first of all. I think that's just like, you know, we're going low. We don't need to go there. There's things that can be said about everybody. And, you know, having plastic surgery and making changes to one's body and face, like that's like standard housewives. Like that's like when you have the resume of, am I going to hire this person for Housewives? It's like, you know, has very strong opinions, argumentative, high maintenance, has had a bunch of plastic surgery. Like it's on the resume. So I just feel like, you know, insulting one another's surgery is just kind of a moot point because it's like they all do it. And, you know, it's just like par for the course. So I don't really see what the big deal is. But anyways, I think these two just don't like each other. So they're just poking at anything that they can. And in terms of just like, but I do kind of understand Drew in the larger context, even though I don't condone, you know, going after someone's looks or anything. But it's like these women, a lot of them have been, it's like they're just targeting Drew. I don't know why. Like, it's like people come on this show and they're new and they think like Drew is the easy target. So let's go after her. And, you know, and I think she's getting tired of it. And I don't really blame her. And it's like they don't give her the same level of respect as someone who's been on the show for a long time, like they do with like Cynthia and even Portia. Like I know like they are going after Portia, but like it took more kind of time for that to happen. It wasn't like an initial thing with Kelly or Shamia. So yeah, I don't know. I just think it's kind of BS in a lot of ways. And I think, you know, I'm just going to say it, like Drew is like really, really pretty. So I could see there being maybe a little bit of like insecurity around that sometimes. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, what else we got? Let's talk about some Real Housewives of Miami, which hasn't been in the news in a little while, but some big happenings going on there because Lenny Hochstein has been accused of drugging and sexually assaulting a woman. So this is according to TMZ. Now, he did make a comment to TMZ saying, I have never drugged or raped anyone in my life. This is an encounter I had over a year ago. There are multiple witnesses. If she believes she was raped, she should go to the police, not try to sue me for money. There's a video of her leaving my home the next day smiling and dancing. That is not the behavior of someone who believes she was raped. Okay, so he's being accused of turning a I guess, a night they had out in Miami into, this sexual assault incident. Now the lawsuit is being filed by Jane Doe. There's no name, so they're staying anonymous. And according to the court documents, the woman claims that Lenny lured her to his Star Island mansion and told her that there's going to be an exclusive after party. Then he gave her a drug and sexually assaulted her. In the lawsuit, she says she was visiting Miami from London. And then she claims that she met a younger man at Sopra Club, and then he invited her to a private after party on Star Island. But when she got there was no actual party. So she says that Hochstein repeatedly hit on her, later gave her a pill he described as a common sleep aid, and she trusted him because he was a doctor. So according to the lawsuit, she blacked out shortly afterwards and didn't wake up until the next morning. She claims Hochstein later told her they had sex, despite her saying she had previously rejected his advances. She claims that he later told her the pill was melatonin, but she says she remembered what the pill looked like, looked it up online, and concluded that it was an Ambien. She's suing him for sexual battery and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Okay. So now this, okay. So first of all, do I believe that Lenny would do this? Yes, of course. Allegedly. I don't have any evidence or know anything. I'm just saying, like, do I believe that the victim or Lenny? I believe the victim, which I do in most cases. Now, is it possible that she's just suing and trying to get money? I guess anything is possible. There's always that chance. But, and he's kind of pointing to the, like, we'll go to the police. Well, I think that, that alone doesn't prove that she wasn't really sexually assaulted, because as we all know nowadays and for all time, going to the police doesn't really get results often, especially with, the sexual predators who get a slap on the wrist at best, or they have lots of money, get the best defense lawyers, and the victim ends up being on trial instead of the rapist, and it's a humiliating experience, and there's like a million reasons that people don't bother with it. It's very difficult to prove, like all that kind of stuff, right? Like she'll get ripped apart. Okay. So there's that. And then on the other side, there's like, I want some kind of justice. Maybe I can at least get a settlement and some sort of admission of wrongdoing and a settlement, even if it is just to me and it's not a public whatever. And then I can try and heal and move on with my life. That is possible. Okay. There's another third possibility, which is that she's just doing it for money. I think that can happen, but I think it's the exception, not the norm, in my opinion. And I think statistically as well, it is the exception. Okay. So here's the other thing. Lenny discusses, or he has released, I don't know if he gave it to TMZ or who did, but TMZ now has the video of the car, like leaving the house or whatever the next morning. And it shows her kind of like looking fine and like happy and whatever. And I guess Lenny is kind of saying like, oh, well, this proves that nothing happened. Like, that's not how people act after they're sexually assaulted. And he needs to shut up about. Like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. People act in many different ways. Very often, victims will try to like suppress things, or they'll be scared, so they'll act normal and happy so they can just get out of the situation and get away from those people as fast as possible, because they think if they show signs of distress, then maybe they'll be, held captive, or they'll be further abused, or whatever the case is. There is no like proper way that a victim has to act after something like this happens. So her leaving and looking, quote unquote, looking okay, does not necessarily reflect what happened or what she's feeling on the inside. So yeah, he needs to maybe educate himself a bit on that. Not that I think he's the type who cares to educate himself on that, but I'm sure we're going to have some updates on this as the time goes on. Okay, so we're going to end off with some Valley news, because Nia Nia and the whole meal train thing was, a storyline. And although I haven't watched the newest episode, so I feel not prepared for this story. I was almost not going to do it, but I want to do it because I know a lot of people watch The Valley, and I think this is an interesting. Well, I don't know about interesting, but this is a quote that has some substance to it. So Lala is speaking out. Okay, she says about Nia and the meal train. She says, Nia sent a link to the meal train. It did not work because it wasn't set up. But it's not even about the meal train not working. It's that everything seems to be something that is for the public. You made a big to-do about it, and then when it didn't work, you just didn't care. And then you didn't reach out to Brittany at all. But you sent her a comment, public place. So I guess she means like she made the comment publicly. However, I do think that she is a really great person, and I think her heart is always in the right place. Okay, but you just said her heart is not in the right place. Like you just said she's doing it for just like publicity. And then this is always my issue with Lala, is that she always talks out of both sides of her mouth. Always. Like that is a classic Lala, which just say it. Just say it. If you don't like her, just say you don't like her. You didn't like Ariana. You felt like you had to pretend you did. And then you were like half her friend, half not. And then it all blew up in your face. Like just she acts like she's such like a strong person who like stands in her opinions and stuff, but she's really not actually. I think she unintentionally misses the mark because of the pageant world she's been in for so long. Okay. Which, I mean, that could absolutely be true. I don't know. It could also be that she wanted to do something to help and then got overwhelmed because she has 4 kids and a husband who's basically a 5th kid. And she also lives really, really far away from everyone. And she could have just got overwhelmed and it got away from her. I mean, like, I am someone who's had moments like that, and I always feel so guilty and so bad about it. But it's like, I'll like agree to something, or I'll like have an idea and I really want to do it in the moment. And then life happens, and then I guilt myself and I beat myself up for not like being able to deliver. And, that is something that comes with age too. Like now that I'm older and I'm in my 40s, like I have kind of learned like to say no and be fine with it and be comfortable with it and not feel guilty about it so that I don't get in those situations in the first place. But yeah, I think Nia still lives in this world of like, I don't know if it's the pageant thing. Sometimes I just think it's more of like her picture of like what a wife and mom should be. I think she's very much kind of like wrapped up in that. And I think some of it comes with like, some of like breaking out of that just comes with age. Some of it, and once your kids get older, but she's kind of stuck in it right now. And I think it's just going to take some time. Now, if she is truly just a manipulative mastermind who's just trying to look like the perfect whoever for the TV show, possibly. I can see a little bit of that in her, but I kind of see a little bit of that in all of them. So I don't know. I don't think that makes her any different from Lala. Like, I think Lala is even worse for trying to be someone for TV. I think she's one of the most produced fake people I've seen on reality television. So it's just a matter of Lala's just playing a different character than Nia. Nia's playing like the Christian stay-at-home mom type, and Lala's playing the like badass who calls everyone on their shit and really cares about all this stuff that she doesn't care about. So yeah, there's just different characters. That's all. And it's easier to call Nia on her character because her character is more of a quote unquote, the kind of like ideal, mom type, I guess. So it's easier to criticize for Lala, I think. Also, Jasmine and Melissa got married. They had their wedding yesterday, and Brittany and Kristen and Zach were all in the wedding party, and Sheena. And yeah, it was quite a big bridal party, pretty huge on both sides, and beautiful wedding. They both looked gorgeous with these like beautiful white gowns, and they both kind of did like their own style. And the photographs are really pretty. Like a lot of times I see the wedding photographs, I'm like, wow, those are nice. But like, seen them, been there, seen pictures like that before. Like, it's like nothing special. But there's this one picture of them standing outside that's so gorgeous. Like, I think standing outside amongst the trees, I think they really had a good photographer. Anyways, it looks like a great time was had, and that they also were like watching the Knicks game and all that. So it looks like they all had a great time. So congratulations to Jasmine and Melissa. And I think that's all we got for today. All right. So I will see you all next week, and you are now in the know for everything Bravo. See you next time. Bye.
You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you might not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
For a small business owner, every day is full of surprises. Some great, some not so great. Like when a client cancels their order at the last minute. But here's a surprise you will like. Progressive provides small business owners with 30 customizable coverage options to help keep their business going strong. So go ahead, surprise yourself. Get a quote in as little as 8 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates and third-party insurers. Coverage is not available in all states or for all vehicles and coverage selections.